Hey everybody, it's Justin, and today I'm going to be bringing you a little bit of action from the 2017 SCCA Solo National Championship. We're going to bring you a little bit of the race footage from both myself and my co-driver, but I also wanted to talk about the mental game and the mental aspect of autocross and racing in general and how that kind of affected me at this Solo National Championship event. Alright, so the mental game and mental preparation for racing. If you are not aware, actually the mental side of racing is almost as important as the skill set of driving and preparing your race car. There's a lot of mental aspects. Being in the right state of mind, being confident, having confidence in your car, all of those types of things apply heavily to autocross and to other forms of racing as well. And you'll even hear some of the top drivers, some of the top racers will say that the mental part of racing is up to 50% of the whole challenge. So I'll try to make this real quick so as to not become too much of a sob story, but it is real life. This was a real deal situation, not a fun one to be in. On the Friday before leaving for Solo Nationals, my father-in-law passed away, my wife's dad, so it was not a good time in our lives at all. And going into Solo Nationals on Wednesday, when I arrived, you want to be arriving where you're pumped up, you're confident, you're feeling good about driving, about the competition, and having a good time. And I was in the state of mind where I wasn't even sure if I was going to go or not. It was kind of a last minute thing. Decided to go ahead and go, try to get my mind off of what was going on with our family, and ended up going. So I got there Wednesday as planned, and instead of being in this pumped up or ready to go state, I arrived feeling like I can't wait to get this over with, and I just want to get home and back to my wife and my family. So from a competition standpoint, obviously you want to be feeling up, not feeling down, because when you're feeling down, you're not focused, your mind isn't on the task at hand, and you're just not into it. And I think going into day one of Solo Nationals, that's how I felt. I just wasn't in it. I didn't have any confidence in the car, and overall I just wasn't driving like myself. And you know, that stuff happens when things like this happen in your life, and it could be anything. It doesn't have to be something as dramatic as what happened to me and my family, but it could be you wake up and you have a bad day or whatever, you had a bad night's of sleep and you don't have the energy or the focus that you want to compete. So this is a huge part of racing and a huge part of autocross. And when you're not in that good state of mind, the positive, confident state of mind, it shows in your results. And that's kind of what happened to me on day one. Like I said, we'll get into the racing here in a minute and you'll kind of see, and I'll talk about where I screwed up, where I went wrong, and how my times suffered as a result of that. So we're going to get into it here, show some of the runs from the event, like I said, my co-driver and myself as well, show you how we did and the overall outcome of 2017 Solo National Championship in my Subaru BRZ. Alright everybody, here we go. Day one, run one for my co-driver Matt. I'll give you an idea of how the course flows and what the grip levels looked like. It was a little bit squirrely for Matt here in the first run. These BFG tires, they're not very great right away on the first run like the Bridgestone RE71Rs are. So these take a little bit of heat to get them warmed up, so that's kind of why the car was a little bit slippery. And we ended up making a change with the suspension anyways for day two to make it a little more comfortable and have more confidence in the car, because even for me on my run, I wasn't totally confident in it, as we'll get to in a second here. But Matt's flying around this course, pushing really hard. I think he already grabbed a cone in the first slalom, a big old slide through there, and this tight right-hander coming back towards the finish. As you can see, he's making all kinds of corrections trying to keep the car straight. So in some sense, we still kind of struggled with rear grip on the car, although it was manageable. It wasn't terrible like it was last year at Nationals, but he made it through all right for his first run. We'll get into my first run. Actually, I think this was my second run, which was my fastest run of the day. I'll post up my quickest of each day, and even though this was my quickest, like I had talked about earlier, I wasn't feeling totally into the car and into the task at hand, so I was under driving in a lot of places, specifically in the offsets and the slaloms like this one here. I was brake checking right there where I shouldn't have been, losing a lot of speed and a lot of time. I felt like my lines were okay for the most part, but just not pushing hard enough. Here again, through that slalom, I was really slow. I lost a lot of time there, even compared to my co-driver Matt, according to the data. In this section here as well, I was tight and had a decent line, but not carrying enough speed and not going as quick as I could have through there. So I feel that because my mind wasn't totally into the game, I wasn't driving and pushing as hard as I know that I can, and as hard as I know that the car can go. And you know, like I talked about earlier, these situations where your mind isn't in it, where you're not mentally prepared, your performance really suffers. And you know, even with that said, I didn't feel like I drove all that great. I was still sitting around mid-pack. I was 25th out of 58 drivers after day one. So it wasn't terrible, but with a better mindset, I think I would have been in a better position after day one. My goal was to be in the top 20 overall at the end of the event. And, you know, being in 25th at least put me in a position to be close. So getting into day two here, we got Matt up again, looking at the right side of the car now. Poor Matt, man, he had a rough day. He was driving and pushing super hard, but he was hitting cones all over the place. I think on all three of his runs, he hit cones on day two. I think one, or at least one, maybe two runs out of day one, he hit cones as well, and we're kind of showing the blooper reel for Matt. We saw him nail a couple cones already. That one he just creamed dead on, said, "Screw you, cone, I'm going to test out how strong this STI front lip is," and that one got seriously smashed, and I think he hit it again on his third run. Going back to day one bloopers, I think this was his first run. He nails that cone right there in the first slalom. He wasn't just hitting stuff on course, he was hitting stuff in grid as well, as he just creamed poor Derek's jack stand in the grid spot. Sorry, Derek. But that's kind of how Matt's weekend went, just killing and clobbering cones left and right. There's another one. I can't even recall how many cones he hit altogether, but getting squirrely, nailed that cone again on the right side on day two course. And yeah, like I said, rough weekend for Matt. He was driving hard, pushing hard, and that's what you got to do at autocross sometimes. If you're not pushing hard enough, sometimes you're going too slow, but as a result, you hit cones as well. Alright, day two fast run for me is up on the screen. I knew I had to be fast on day two, and my mind was kind of cleared after the slow day one. I think after you have what you feel is a crummy day for yourself, your mind is kind of cleared for the next day, and it's like, heck, what do I have to lose? I'm just going to go for it. And you go out and do your thing. And I ended up putting down, I think it was the 7th fastest time out of the 58 drivers on day two. So that was pretty significant for me, and I felt like I was driving the way I know I can drive. I was getting through the course good with good lines. I was keeping on the power through the slaloms like this, not lifting or braking like I was the day before. And, you know, like I said, doing what I needed to do the way I know I can. And, you know, with autocross, you don't get many chances to put down those fast times, and the good drivers are able to do it right out of the gate, you know, with no hesitation. And one thing I always try to improve on is being fast out of the gate, and then improving upon those times as the day goes on. And I was able to do that on day two. Actually, I think my second run, which was my fastest, was the quickest time for me, that 7th fastest time of the day. So while I didn't improve on the third run, it was still pretty quick and respectable. So I felt like I was back to where I needed to be. This is pretty much the same run that we just looked at, just from the other side of the car. So finished out day two on a positive note, and at this point, like I came in Wednesday, I was eager to get home back to the family. Was happy to have finished it off on a good note, and we ended up in 15th place overall for the 2017 Solo National Championship. So 15th place out of 58. That got me the second to last trophy spot. The trophies are handed out for the top 25% of drivers plus one, I believe it is, and then of course your first, second, and third place get the big podium trophies. And with the top 20 finish, I achieved my goal for this year for Solo Nationals, and next year we'll be looking to do even better. Alright everybody, so that's going to wrap it up for the 2017 Solo National Championship. Ended up alright from a standings point of view. Can't complain about that considering the circumstances. So we're going to go ahead and finish up the off season at my local championship series. I'll bring you a few more events from that before the year is over. And then it's off season time to figure out what we're going to do with the car, what upgrades we're going to do during the off season to make it better and to make it faster and more reliable, and hopefully come out with an even better result than we did this year. So thanks again everybody for watching. I hope you appreciated the video, hope you enjoyed it. If you have any thoughts or comments, again, like always, leave them down below. I would love to hear from you. Stay tuned for more coming up real soon. We'll talk to you all next time.